I've got something in my front pocket for you. Why don't you reach on in my pocket and see what it is? Then grab onto it, it's just for you. Give it a little squeeze and say, how do you do? Something in my front pocket for you. Why don't you reach on in my pocket and see what it is? Then grab onto it, it's just for you. Give it a little squeeze and say, how do you do? There's something in my front pocket. There's something in my front pocket. There's something in my front pocket.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Talk Gaming. This is episode 4. If you're new to the show, I'm Lukey Poo. Welcome. We're going to have a good time today. We got a lot of fun topics. And if you are a veteran of the show, welcome back. Before we get into it, I do just want to say, I'm doing another special giveaway. This one a little bit different. We're doing this one almost exclusively, not almost, exclusively on Twitter. All you need to do to enter is follow me on Twitter at LukeStevensTV, and tweet at me, hashtag TalkGaming, with the one game which has most impacted you and influenced you. It could be in your personal life, it could be in the way you approach video games or view video games, just whichever video game really stands out to you. Not necessarily your favorite, but the game that stands out to you the most. And you will be entered. And if we pass 400 followers on Twitter, which is very feasible, if even a fifth of the people that watch this show in the first 24 hours go and follow me on Twitter, at LukeStevensTV, we're set. And one lucky person is going to win a brand spanking new game for the platform of their choice, worth up to $60 full retail. So that means even if you wanted friggin' Horizon Zero Dawn, you can get it. And I will get it for you. And you will have it. All because you simply followed me at LukeStevensTV and tweeted at me, hashtag TalkGaming, with your most influential game pick. That's all you gotta do. That's all you gotta do. Really simple, really no reason not to. It's a win-win for everybody. But first thing, before we get into the topics you guys have suggested and that I want to get off my chest, I do want to talk about something that happened this week. In last week's episode of Talk Gaming, I discussed Mr. Maddie Plays. And Mr. Maddie Plays is a YouTuber. He's a YouTuber I follow for a while, since December or November of 2014. And he's got about 290-ish thousand subscribers. He's a very big YouTuber, very successful, specializing in Bethesda-related content. Specifically, he found his success talking about Fallout 4. And when I first started following him, he had about 20-something thousand subs. And by November of 2015, when the game had come out, he was in the 275,000 range. So Fallout 4 really, really boosted his channel up. And in this segment last week, I essentially was talking about how I really loved his stuff, but I thought propping up Bethesda as an RPG developer was bad, because I think they don't make RPGs. I think they make open world. It's weird. They make these weird games that don't really fit into their into a clear mold. They're a Bethesda game. It's hard to describe Skyrim because it's not really an RPG in the same way that Fallout 1 was or Fallout 2 was. It's not really like that. But it's still open world, and it's sort of like an RPG, but it's certainly not like an action or thriller game. It's certainly not a narrative game. So it's weird. It fits into its own thing. And I talked about Maddie. I talked about Maddie at length, and probably on Wednesday or Thursday, I cut it as a Talk Gaming extra and posted it. So it was its own little extra or excerpt of the show, its own standalone thing. And I labeled it as a message to Maddie, Mr. Maddie. And I didn't expect him to ever hear about it. I really just expected it to be something I get out to my fans, my viewers, and you guys could take it or leave it and leave your feedback, and we would go from there. But it turns out he was one of the first probably 100 people or so to see that video, which was really surprising to me. He left a long comment on the video and tweeted out some stuff, which I don't think it had directly to do with me, but I got the impression that it had. I certainly hadn't helped the situation. Basically, in his comment, he had said that, he accepts the criticism, he's appreciative of it, and that he was going to make a video on why The Witcher 3 was the gold standard of RPGs, but now he wasn't going to because he viewed it or thought that it would just be seen as like a reply or response to my video. And, he said he messed up a few times with Fallout 4 and, he's made some mistakes, but he's trying to improve it and all this stuff. And once I looked into it, I realized what he's been kind of dealing with. And I'm sure I didn't handle it in the best way possible, and I do regret it. I was pretty harsh. But honestly, I think I was harsh because I didn't ever think he would see it or respond. I thought being harsh would maybe wake up some of his fans that Fallout wasn't that great and Bethesda wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and that there were better options for them out there. But I was very harsh, and it came off pretty mean now that I look back on it. And so I tweeted at him and I said, listen, man, no hard feelings. I'm just trying to help a brother out. I'm not trying to start anything. I was just trying to put something out there about a YouTuber I enjoy and that I don't want to see go down the tube. And he said, yeah, I get that. I appreciate it. Thanks for the input. See you around. So it seems to be resolved. It seems to be all but done and okay. Everything's all right. I'm not in like some turf war with Mr. Maddie Plays. I still enjoy his stuff. He's sticking with Bethesda content, which I honestly do not blame him for. As I said, it's the one that brought him. Everyone there that's watching him is watching him because of Bethesda content, so to completely ignore it doesn't make a lot of sense. And there's very good evidence that they could actually be showing off, at the very least, a game at E3 this year, which would be very interesting indeed, because they've typically taken 4 to 5 years in between games. But some things said by not only Todd Howard, but by the former VP of marketing, I believe, Pete Hines. Now he's just an executive. I'm not sure where he exactly fits in the executive delineation or whatever. But nonetheless, he said some things which hint at Bethesda Game Studios having already expanded. They already expanded to roughly 200 people, which is basically double what they had for Skyrim, opening another studio in Montreal. And he said they're working on 3 very big, very Bethesda titles. So it actually might not be a bad idea to cover Bethesda for the next year or two, because it looks like they might be completely changing up their release methods. Now, you can argue whether or not that's a good idea because their games are always so buggy, but if they get a new engine, if they, switch over and start doing things differently, maybe completely redo their engine, take a year just to do that. If they do that, okay, yeah, go on an annual thing with different teams and studios working on it, go for it. I would be okay with it. I really have nothing to lose, so, go for it. I have my fantasy RPG kind of scratch completely scratched rather. And I have my dystopian itch scratched. So I really am okay if they experiment with it. And I think we were very vocal about Fallout 4, so I don't think they're going to make the same mistakes, especially if they fire whatever the writer's name is, Pogliario or something like that. He's a train wreck. The one thing, I'll make a video on this, but the one thing Bethesda needs to do to survive and to really move forward with where they've said they want to go with their content, fire all of your writers, get new ones. I know he's been with you for years. I know he did Fallout 3. I know he did Skyrim. Fire him. He sucks. If you want to go the narrative route, choose something else. I don't think that's what Bethesda's good at. I think Bethesda is good at creating a sandbox to play in. And it really works when you don't limit the player and don't force the player to participate in the story. But for some reason they feel like they need to. I don't understand that. But you do you, I suppose. But all of this, I don't even know how I got on the writers of Fallout 3 and Skyrim. But my whole point behind this was people were concerned that I was in some sort of beef with Mr. Maddie, and some people left the channel after I called him out because they thought that it was mean and maybe a little too blunt. And I would say that's fair. I was very harsh and very blunt and very, here's what I think, man. And even in some regards, I held back. But I think I was overly harsh, and I do regret that. I am sorry. I've expressed that to Mr. Maddie, and he said, it's all cool, dude. We're cool. So, situation diffused. Everything is okay. And nonetheless, it's cool to be recognized and talked about and discussed and have this big comment made by a YouTuber I've been following and who really inspired my channel. To have him even acknowledge my existence is a pretty cool thing. Maybe that's what I was subconsciously trying to do. Maybe subconsciously I was like, just say something about him so he recognizes you, so you can feel like you've actually come some distance since you started. And I think I have, clearly, because he responded and he actually saw the video, which I never, ever, ever expected. He was one of the first 100 people after the video went up at midnight, which would be like 2 a.m. his time. So I don't know if he's a subscriber. It won't show me people who hide their subscriptions. I don't know if he's a subscriber or if he just gets notified or if somebody sent him the video. I don't know, whichever it was. But nonetheless, I'm super honored that he has seen it and was willing to comment. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to stop fanboying. But all that kind of leads me into this. I figured out Fallout 4. And I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but today Donald Trump became president of the United States. Today I have an entire cake in my room, sitting on my floor. And today, I am also going to talk positively and not outright criticize Fallout. The world is full of surprises, really, for everybody. I did not expect this, but in general, I have figured out Fallout 4. I figured out finally why my brothers are able to play it for 100 hours, 200 hours, hundreds of hours. And they can just have a blast and they just have a great time. And I'm trying to figure out how they're doing it because I tried to do that. I tried to have a good time. It's not like I don't want to dislike games. I think there's a big misconception. People don't like disliking things. Some people are just a-holes and will just be contrary. But deep down, they don't have any real problems with the things that they're criticizing. But I don't like, honestly, disliking a game or a company or anything. I want to like everyone. I want every game I play to be the new greatest game I've ever touched. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't anybody? Really. But I could not get behind Fallout 4. And I was like, why did I like Skyrim so much? But I don't like Fallout 4. And that was the big question. And somebody on Twitter, I can see right now, we have the technology. Somebody on Twitter, I'll find his name while I'm babbling, actually asked me, like, do you like Skyrim? You said you like Skyrim. Why do you like Skyrim but not Fallout? Like, what's the difference? It's made by the same people. It seems to have the same similar approach. What's different? And that got me thinking, what is different? That doesn't make any sense. Wes. Just Wes. Wes, okay. Wes said, and asked me that. So with that said, I started asking myself, why do I like Skyrim? Why was I able to put in like 180 hours into Skyrim, but not even get more than 30 before I got super bored and super PO'd about Fallout 4? What happened? And I started looking at it, started really thinking about it, and I started sketching stuff out, trying to figure out what it was. And it all comes down to how you play. Let me explain. Fallout 4 was pitched as a narrative RPG. That's what Todd Howard said it was. That's what Bethesda said it was. That's what ZeniMax said it was. That's what the reviewers said it was. That's not what it is, though. And that's where the problem for so many people comes. If the game were not called Fallout and were not called a narrative RPG, it would be a really fun, really good game. It would be. If I had no affiliation with it, if I didn't know anything about it, and I was just playing this bunch of zeros and ones out of the blue one day, I would find it super fun and super cool. The problem comes when it's called a narrative RPG, specifically when you approach it as one. Why? Well, because you play games differently based on what you expected. You play Dark Souls 3 differently than you would play, say, Overcooked or Stardew Valley, because you expect a different experience, you expect a different difficulty, a different pace, different structures, different mechanics. You play it differently. Like when I sit down to play Dark Souls 3, I put the headphones in or on, and I turn off the lights. And I like with one of those more lighthearted games like Stardew Valley, I might have an episode of Family Guy going at the same time. But nope. With this, I focus completely on the game. You approach it differently. And after coming off The Witcher 3, approaching Fallout 4, it being called a narrative RPG like The Witcher 3 was, I said, I'm going to play it the same way I played The Witcher 3. I'm going to approach it in a very serious way, a role-playing way, where I sit there and I try to get in the head of the character or put the character in my head and play like I would in that world. Role play. In a role-playing game, supposedly. So I found myself, right from the start of the game, devastated that my wife had been killed and that my baby boy had been taken. So what did I do? I lunged out of the vault and I sprinted everywhere I could. I did all the story missions in a row. Didn't really bother with any side missions I needed to do or didn't need to do. I just pushed through the game trying to get through it as quickly as I could because in my head I'm saying, I'm the father of this baby boy. I need to find him. I need to find him fast. I need to save him. And I will do whatever it takes to accomplish that. But that's not how Fallout 4 is built. And that's not what everything else in the game is structured for. The game, when you try to play it that way, it breaks. It actually breaks. You can sprint through Fallout 4. You get to, spoiler alert, I guess, if you haven't played Fallout 4 and you're really concerned about the story or lack thereof. Then spoiler alert. But okay, spoiler over. Here, alert over. Here we go. When you find Father in the Institute, and you walk in that room, and there's Sean, your child, sitting in the glass jail cell. Basically, he's just sitting there trapped. The instant I saw him, I was like, "Holy crap! Okay, I'm a father. He's my son. I'm getting him out of here. Okay, go. And I start trying to pound on the button on the door, and I start trying to shoot at the glass to break it. I pull out my explosives, plant them there, try to blowing everything up, just trying to get in there because I'm like, I gotta get in there, gotta save my son. And then Father, the door opens and he comes out, and I blow his brains out, and he's in little pieces all over the room. And I'm trying to get out, trying to get the door open, looking in all the desks and everything for a key. I can't find anything, so I go back there and I'm like, must have missed a button, must have missed something, and I can't find it. And I look around, all the doors are locked, I can't do anything. And I'm like, I must have hit a glitch. That's what I assumed. I must have hit some sort of glitch. And so I reloaded and did the same thing. Same thing happened. I honestly thought the game was broken because it seemed like such a duh thing for me to do. To be like, I'm getting in there, whatever it takes. I'm not listening to this guy. No matter what he has to say, they kidnapped my son and killed my wife. I'm going to kill them all, and I'm taking my boy, and we're going. And we're going to start a new life. We're going to do whatever, but we're leaving. No. The game wasn't built for it. The game wasn't designed for it. Turns out it wasn't a bug. That's just the game. It wasn't ready for it. The game literally can't handle that choice. The game breaks at that point. All the doors lock. You can't do anything. You can't get Sean out. It's just like the game freezes, basically. So you sit there and you listen to Father start talking, and then he turns off the synth that is your boy. It's not your actual boy. And then Father's like, I'm your son. I am Sean. Call me Father. I'm like, what? Like, I get that it's cool. It is cool. I will grant them this, that in Fallout 3, you were the son and you were the child looking for your father. And now in Fallout 4, you're the father looking for your child. So it's kind of role reversal. Really the only positive thing I can say about the story. But the problem was that the game was not built for role playing. Because if you're role playing and you take it even slightly seriously, you are going to do what I did and kill every mofo in that building. But you can't. You literally can't. The world is not made for it. So the game breaks. So you have to play on these railroad tracks that they've set down for you. And it kind of ruins the thing. It ruins the experience. Isn't this an adorable Pepsi? I think so. I think it's pretty cute. And that's when I realized really that this game wasn't an RPG. And I really started to think about it recently. I hadn't really put the pieces together until I kind of got in this feud with Maddie. And I realized I was playing it all wrong. You can't play it like a narrative RPG, because if you do, the game will break. Not your immersion, that'll break too, whether it's because of glitches or whatever. But the game itself will break because it can't handle your choices. And for me, I think that it was a matter of mismarketing just in general that really screwed Fallout 4. And if it had been approached as it should have been, which is selling it as an open world shooter, first and foremost, it would have been widely regarded as a great game. They said, if they had just come out and said, listen, we know we have a lot of RPG fans, trust us on this, it's going to be fun, it's going to be a good time, but we're going to step away from the RPG elements, we're going to focus on the combat, on the world. That's what they do anyways. That's what they did in Skyrim. That's what they did in Fallout 4. Just the difference is in Skyrim, they didn't hire voice actors and they didn't pretend like it was a narrative. Nobody plays Skyrim for the story. Nobody. Crazy people do that. I'm not crazy. I'm a little crazy. So that's my revelation with Fallout 4 is the way you play that game and the way my brothers played it wasn't doing the story or trying to role play as this father searching for his abducted son. No, you don't do that. You basically ignore the main story as much as you can. You go, you explore, you shoot stuff, you have a good time, you build some settlements, and you do that. Even the settlements are an example of Bethesda kind of hinting that you shouldn't focus on the story. Because if you're a father and your freaking son has just been abducted, you're not going to go and spend months building cabins and freaking 4-story tall wood sheds. You're not going to do that. You're going to go search for him until you find him. That's why Fallout 4 was not made for role-playing. So I still stand by my criticisms of Fallout 4 as an RPG, but once I realized that you aren't supposed to play it that way, or at least if to have fun, you shouldn't play it that way, it's an open world shooter. And if you play it that way, and I did for about 2 hours, I found myself having a great time approaching it differently. You can have a really good time with it. Just like I did with Skyrim, just like with that, you can have a really good time with Fallout 4 if you just realize what it is. So, in many ways, I'm like, whoa, I just said something positive. Fallout 4 it can be a really good game if you approach it right. Just like with any of the Soulsborne series, which we're going to talk about in a minute, you have to approach these games correctly. You can't approach these in a sort of neutered, I've got to be careful sense. You can't approach them like they're hard games. You have to approach them like I'm a god king and I'm going to slay everyone. You have to approach it a certain way, otherwise you're just not going to have a good time. It's like the ski instructor from South Park. If you try to play Fallout 4 as a narrative RPG, you're going to have a bad time. That's what it is. That's what it is. Those are my revelations on Fallout 4. Take it or leave it. Mic drop. With all that said, we're going to go to Twitter and respond to some questions real quick. Again, at Luke Stevens TV, tweet at me with your questions, any requests that you have, and they will be discussed on the show. So really, no reason not to. Again, plus you enter to win a full price game. That's a win-win. Biggie just says Biggie, but okay. Biggie asks, could you speak to which you prefer, Dark Souls 3 or Bloodborne? Sure. And then in another tweet, Biggie also asks, could you also talk about Neo, that Soulsborne game thing? Sure. I'll talk about both of those topics. Let's do it. Thank you for tweeting at me with those questions, with those requests. I appreciate the participation. I really do. That's why I had these out. Dark Souls and Bloodborne. Bloodborne was my first exposure into the sort of Soulsborne series or type of game. It was the first time I ever tried anything like it. I didn't consider myself particularly good at video games, but after finishing Bloodborne, I all of a sudden feel like I'm very good at video games. Whether or not that's true, I'm not sure, but nonetheless, I feel like it. And that's one of the big important things about these games is that they make you feel incredible. These things, because they're not easy, and because they require studying the enemies, studying the bosses, working on them, practicing them, going and attempting the boss battles 4, 5, 20, 30 times before you beat them. Once you do, you feel amazing. You feel like a god, and you're bragging to all your friends. Dude, I just finished Bloodborne. Yeah, I'm started on the DLC now. They're like, dude, that's awesome. How did you do that? Like, how long did it take you? I'm like, well, it took me like 60 hours to finish it all. They're like, dude, did you see that speed run through of the guy that did it in like 2 hours 45? And you're like, dude, shut up. That's crazy. I was really just focused on the world and the environments, and I was just having a good time. And then like, well, no, but like, you're still pretty good if you finished it nonetheless. I don't know why I turned into Bill Clinton in that last one. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was like, I was there. Everything got so real. I don't know where I was going with that, but nonetheless, basically they form this weird club where you meet people who also have played these games, who are part of the cult of From Software, and you just automatically get along. This guy's going to be your buddy, and it's awesome. It really is awesome because it's like having gone through the same gauntlet. It really is. Once you see that person and you're like, "Sup, brother, stay strong. You know, we both survived it. We flourished. We didn't just survive, we flourished." That's what these games actually make you feel. And it's great. Now, as specifically, I am on the Nameless King on this. So I can't say directly my entire thoughts on the game, but just having fought basically everyone else, I can say parts of Dark Souls 3 seem rushed. Parts of it seem rushed. Bloodborne, less so. This game seems like they recognized limitations a little more, and from the start to finish seemed like they had a coherent and consistent thought and idea. This game is more segmented. It really feels like you're going into different areas, which I'm not a huge fan of. I don't like it when you're climbing a ladder and then all of a sudden you're in a swamp, but if you climb up, you're in this snowy wonderland. I don't love that. It's kind of... It reminds me I'm playing a video game because it just doesn't feel like that. Bloodborne, for me at least, I've heard things to the contrary, but for me at least, Bloodborne feels much more coherent and much more like you start on a path and you go all the way through. Not even on a path. It's kind of like a bunch of branches, but there's a hub. There's a couple hubs. Basically, you start the game at the end of one of the branches and you have to work your way sort of towards... I guess you would say Cathedral Ward is sort of the hub of the game where all of the roads kind of cross each other there. And once you get there, then you kind of branch out into all these different linear paths. But each of them feel unique and each of them feel at least semi-reasonable in their progression into those different biomes or I hate to use a Minecraft word, but nonetheless, biome. But Dark Souls 3, parts of it feel really rushed. Like when you're fighting this guy, the guy on the cover, Yorm the Giant, there's a whole bit where like you could fight him regularly, or you could use, I think it's called like the Storm Chaser or Storm Cloak, Storm Dagger, whatever it's called. It's a great sword. So you charge it and then you swing it down, and he's particularly vulnerable to it. So when you try to attack with your regular sword, it's doing mini damage. Like the bar is this big, health bar is this big. You're doing microscopic amounts. So it would take you like 45 minutes to chop him down, assuming you don't die in the meantime. But if you get this Storm Chaser, Storm Cloak, Storm whatever it's called, then you can actually do like 6,000 health points of damage in one swing. So he can be down in 4 or 5 hits, which is crazy. And for me, when I first, somebody told me about it, I was like, okay, well, that's not bad. Like, where do you find it? Like, do you get that from another optional boss? Does another optional boss drop it or something? Because I could get that. If you have to go through this big ordeal to get that special sword and then take it to this giant among men who's on the friggin' cover, then I could understand that. But no, turns out it's sitting next to him, next to his chair. And that was like, oh, I mean, I'm really happy I got it. Don't get me wrong, because I can beat him now. But like, really? You couldn't have put it even on the outside or in a hallway or something? Like, really? I honestly think that they just ran out of time to finish wherever they were going to put it. And just kind of were like, okay, just put it next to him, I guess. Maybe it's his sword and they just use... I guess that works. Okay, yeah, just throw it there. It's fine. No, it's not fine. That's my big moment in the game where I was like, that was weird. That was really strange that just happens to be sitting there. All the other moments in the game are like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. I've got to figure this out. Okay, where am I going? What am I doing? And you spend so long working on these things. Pontiff Sullivan spent like 2 weeks working on it. But like friggin' Yorm the Giant, nope. This sword's sitting right next to him. Maybe that was completely intentional from the start. My guess would be actually that the section and the area that the Nameless King is in, I think because it's like this weird windy, cloudy area, I think it would just make sense that that's where the sword would originate. And so maybe the original plan was to have like the Nameless King as a mid-game boss or a really hard late-game boss that you have to defeat before taking on Yorm the Giant. I could see that, and then you got to go and kill the Nameless King before you can actually kill Yorm the Giant, because the Nameless King has the sword, or it's right behind him, or it's in some like Great One or something gives it to you. I'm thinking Bloodborne. Somebody gives you this great sword, and then you use it to defeat the giant. But no, it's sitting next to him. So parts of it seem rushed. I hope they take their time with the next one, or at least don't do stuff like that. But nonetheless, they've gone annually on release. This was 2015. This was 2016. So in 2017, we can expect to get another game from them, unless they take a year off. And it doesn't sound like they are. They haven't said that they're taking any time off or that they're going to go work on something big for a while. They said they're working. Miyazaki, he said, I think it's Miyazaki. That sounds right. Miyazaki, director of both of these, he said that they are working on, for one, another installment on their mech franchise, which is really popular in Japan, actually. These mechanical sort of robot android type battles and everything. So he said they're working on one of those, which makes sense. They come from Japan, so it makes sense that they would provide something for their audience especially. And then he also said that they are working on something that fits more in line with fans' expectations. Okay, I would expect Bloodborne 2, honestly, would be my expectation. They just did Dark Souls 3. I wouldn't expect another one of these for 3-4 years, which lines up really nicely. If they do Bloodborne 2, 2017, they do Mech whatever, 2018, and then they come back in 2019 or 2020 with Dark Souls 4, I could totally see that. Especially because Bloodborne was a surprise hit. Sony executives even said they didn't expect that game to be remotely successful, and they sold like 1 million copies, 1.1 or 1.2 million copies in the first week or something crazy like that, and they didn't expect that. But really, like, it's a good game, and I do not blame them for having such good sales, or I don't blame customers for buying it. Hell, I did. Okay, it was given to me, but still, you get what I mean. So yeah, they're good games. I like them. If I had to recommend one above the other, it depends on your experience. If you have no experience with the Dark Souls or Bloodborne franchises, Bloodborne. Start with Bloodborne. The way that this game is structured will kind of train you for how to play this one, because you can't play passively. This game gives you a shield, which I think is so stupid, because in this game you don't have a shield and you're forced to go and just get in, you're dodging into fire, you're dodging into monsters to dodge hits, and then you chop them up, then you dodge back, then you dodge into them. That's what it's all about. It's about being the hunter. As it says on the back of the case, friggin' hunt your nightmares is what it says on the back of the game case. And all over the game, it's calling you hunter, and the hunt is afoot. You are the hunter. They are the hunted. You got to treat it that way and be the predator and not the prey. These games give you a shield, so you have this weird feeling that you need to use it all the time, and it makes beginners especially feel like they need to go through the game world with it up all the time and, dodging rarely, but really keeping that shield up, absorbing those blows, and only attacking with like a spear when they feel they can. It's messy. You got to start with Bloodborne if you haven't already. And if you have experience with the series, and maybe your last game was Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne probably would be a good change of pace. I think it would be more interesting, more fun for you, to be honest. But, you do you. In general, Bloodborne is just my suggestion. It's a really good game. It's a really good game. And the other question was Nioh. Nioh, Nioh. It's, I believe, also a Japanese game, and it's supposed to be in the same realm as the Soulsborne franchise, which could be interesting, could be weird at the same time. It's supposed to be incredibly difficult, and I looked up gameplay. It looks interesting. What I will say that looks really cool and that I like about it is the idea of different stances. I think that's genius, because just like with Dark Souls, where you can customize what you have equipped and what you're wearing to increase or decrease weight so that you can move faster or dodge with bigger jumps and things, what Nioh does is they have different like stances. So there's one stance with your sword up, and that's for like heavy attacks. You're slower, you can't dodge as quickly, but big heavy attacks that use a lot of stamina. You have a medium stance, which is a sword about in the middle, and that's pretty balanced in terms of dodging and attack damage. Then you have one where your sword is low. I know this looks weird. Where your sword is low, and but you're able to dodge really quickly, and it's really quick attacks going all over the place, but low damage, obviously. So I thought that was really cool. You just hold down R1, then tap X, square, triangle, or circle, and it'll change your stance, which I thought was really, really cool. I have not tried it yet. I have not played it. Looks interesting. Looks cool. It's cartoony in kind of the art style, but nonetheless, it looks cool. I don't know much about it, though, so I don't know. I might try it after Dark Souls 3. I don't know what I'm going to move on to. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and play more Fallout 4. Who would have thought Lukey Poo would be saying that? It's been a weird year so far, hasn't it? But yeah, thank you for the questions. Thank you. If you have any, tweet them at Luke Stevens TV, #Tout Gaming. Yeah. So last week's episode was filmed on Friday afternoon. And in that time period, Nintendo was still going on with their conference and sort of demonstration of all the video games that they were going to put out on the Nintendo Switch. But nonetheless, I had to film it, and I wanted to talk about the Switch, so I did. I passed judgment on it pretty harshly, saying that it seemed like Nintendo was out of touch. It seemed like they didn't know where they fit. And what I can say safely is that that rings even more true after what I have learned that went on in that time and since then. Such mind-blowing things that I just don't understand. Maybe it's a cultural difference. Maybe it's... I don't even know what it would be. It makes no sense. First things first. Nintendo is having no video streaming anything, any apps of that kind. No Netflix, no Hulu, no Crackle. I don't even think YouTube is going to be on the device as an app at all. Just not going to be there. And when asked about why this was, the Nintendo CEO of America said, or Nintendo of America's CEO, he said, we're focused on creating a gaming console. First and foremost, nothing else. We want it to be a gaming console. And everyone's like, what? What? You're in 2017 when even the NVIDIA Shield for like $100 or $200 is able to stream in 4K, play all these games from like the 360 era, and also, of course, has YouTube, has Netflix, has streaming stuff so you can stream from your computer onto it. It has all these features that you're saying, no, we're focused on gaming. We're not going to do that. What are you thinking? What is in your brain? Skull, mountain, whatever. I don't even know what to call them. They make no sense. Honestly, I sat in this chair for like 10 minutes trying to think through what they could be thinking, why they wouldn't do it. Like, does it take that many resources to write an app for Netflix and YouTube and Hulu? No, it really doesn't. Especially if you say, hey, Netflix, we have this new console. It's going to have millions of people on it. Could you write an app for us? will give you like, 200 grand or something. It won't cost much. You're basically just writing a browser. And they're like, no, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. The fact that you don't have video streaming services on the Switch makes no sense at all. And another thing that makes no sense at all, team chat. Team chat is incredibly important in mobile game or in multiplayer games, like Splatoon 2, for instance. It just makes sense that a console in 2017 would have team chat capabilities. It just makes sense. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. If you're playing Splatoon, all you do is you get your headphones, you plug them into the audio jack at the top of the device, put your earphones in, and you're team chatting after you hit a couple buttons. Easy. It just works, right? No, that's not how Nintendo is doing it. That's how a sane company would do it, but that's not how Nintendo is doing it. What they're doing instead is they say you have to have an app on your phone. Yeah, an app on your phone that is going to handle the matchmaking, the team chat, the match finding, and voice chat also. Like, what? And when asked about why this was, Nintendo of America CEO, whatever his name is, said, well, the Switch doesn't have built-in mobile data options. It doesn't have the antenna for it like your cell phone would. So if you're playing on the go, you will need your cell phone anyways to set up as a hotspot. So, naturally, why not? He said it was a elegant solution to the problem to have it on your cell phone, which will already be acting as a hotspot supposedly, and to do it that way. And so you have two very expensive devices hooked up to play one game. What? No, if I'm playing on the go, I'm either like on the train, sure, or I'm on a plane, or perhaps I just wanted to go to Starbucks and play Smash with Smash Bros with some bros. Maybe that's what I wanted to do. Or maybe I went over to my girlfriend's house and we wanted to play some other, whatever that punching game is. Maybe we wanted to play that, so I took it over there. And we had a great time. Like, maybe I have access to Wi-Fi. Maybe that's what it is. And I don't want to use my phone for any of this stuff. Just because I'm not plugged into a docking station doesn't mean that I'm automatically using my cell phone to make the device operate. It's a moot point. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what they are saying. And even so, why use two devices to do what you should be able to do on one device? It just makes sense that the Switch should have some sort of button you press, do it in the Nintendo way where it's a little smiley face with a little microphone coming down. You press on it and all of a sudden the team chat option comes up and you can say, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. Why wouldn't that be a thing? Why wouldn't that be a thing? I don't know. One person told me it was because of liability reasons. They don't want to be liable if little kids are playing on Splatoon 2 and then in-game they accidentally hit some buttons and they hear a bunch of cursing adults. And if you do it through the cell phone app method, then they can have a little more control over it, try to filter out some of those little kids from hearing potentially bad things. I'm like, okay. But you also flaunted all these parental control options. Just turn off team chat so they don't have any access to team chat, whether it's on your phone or on your Switch. You just don't have it. Why not that? Be pretty easy to implement. Just make the button go away. But no, you can't do that. That would make too much sense. The other argument I heard was they said that they wanted the game, as they already said, they want the gaming console to be focused completely on gaming and nothing else. And so they have this console set up so it can only handle single tasks basically at a time. And so voice chat they just didn't want to do, because then it might drain battery life further to have it chatting over your phone and over, the Wi-Fi hotspot you have. They were worried that would suck too much power. Even that doesn't make sense because it's already connecting to the phone, which is then going and connecting, and then it's passing it back down. So you're burning more power on your phone. It really just makes no sense at all. The whole thing is just a giant mind poop. It makes no sense at all. And I honestly can't think of a reason why they're doing it. If you have an idea, tweet at me at LukeStevensTV or comment down below, whatever it is. I don't know. I can't think of a reason they would do this. I honestly can't think of a reason. And I feel kind of stupid that I can't, but I honestly have no idea what they're thinking. Are they just lazy? Do they think their consumers won't care? What is going on in their heads? And I am honestly not sure. I see no real profit to either of these things. I really don't. I don't friggin' know. Already the Switch is selling out in certain locations, which I was going to say I find hard to believe, but then I remembered that Nintendo has a history of faking scarcity by only producing a very small number. They did this with the NES Classic, SNES Classic, whatever they called it. Mini Classic, I think is what it was. And you would order it for like $100, but it was like impossible to find anywhere. So you had to buy them for like $300 from a scalper. And the reason was not because they just couldn't make enough of them, but because they chose not to make enough of them. So you get articles popping up saying the mini SNES just sold out. I had my business, whatever he was, business like writing, business communication teacher. He came up to me and he knew I did some gaming stuff on YouTube, and he said, "Did you hear about like that Nintendo mini console thing? Yeah, I heard it's selling out. It's doing pretty well." It's like, it's probably doing fine, but Nintendo only produces like 100 of them, and then when they get 1,000 orders, which is pretty abysmal, they go, "Oh my gosh, we were not ready for this. This is crazy." Everyone sees what you're doing. Everybody. And your entire like friggin' policies make really no sense at all. I honestly just am not sure what you're thinking. I just don't know. That's all I have to say on that. I don't know what Nintendo is thinking. And it reinforces this idea that I have discussed multiple times. I honestly and truly believe that Nintendo is homeless. What do I mean by that? Good question. Nintendo is homeless because they don't know where they belong. They don't know where home is. They don't know where they fit in the gaming industry. And I'm not sure where they fit either. It doesn't seem like they want to be number one, or else they would be putting out the most powerful console and they'd be focusing on that. They'd say, we're going to take down Sony. We're going to make it so people need a Nintendo whatever in order to play the newest game at the highest settings to make it look the best. They don't want that. They could have done that. They're coming in the middle of the freaking cycle. But no. They choose instead to make an underpowered device that has a novelty feature and pretend like that is just as good. They're trying to fit into another category of mobile gaming instead of coming into the couch gamers or whatever you would call them, more professional gamers that are like here, more, I don't know, hobbyists rather. They're trying to fit in, not in here, but they're trying to fit into the small group over here that are just focused on like mobile gaming or lighthearted stuff. And I don't get it. I think it's stupid. I don't know what they're trying to do. And because they aren't ever competing for number one and not even number two, they're completely conceding to Xbox One and to PlayStation. They're saying we're fine with being number three. Like, no wonder your stock dropped 6% in an hour and a half after you first announced all the stuff about the Switch. No wonder. because you're always competing for third place out of 3. And people are just kind of sick of it. I mean, I guess you could say out of 4, you're competing for 4th place with PC. But I mean, in like console type gaming. I just don't get it. I don't get you, Nintendo. You make no sense. And maybe it's a cultural thing. People kept saying that the weirdness at the whole event was because it was a cultural thing. I'm not sure. Maybe. I don't think Japanese people are as crazy on puns as people make them out to be. I think that even that was cringy in Japan, probably. Because it's like, we're going to switch on over to you guys. Like, that's cringy. That's cringy. No wonder people aren't excited about your console. You're saying we're going to switch over. Boo. Boo for puns. But that concludes today's episode. I am running out of voice. I do want to say school has started. It's in full swing. So I can't make as much stuff as I have in the past, especially over Christmas break. But I am going to still try to keep the quality up. We're going to probably just drop a video off. But I'm still going to try to come out with one, this on Saturday, with another video Monday, video on Wednesday, maybe gameplay on Thursday, and then a new episode on Saturday. We'll just have to stretch it out a little bit because I'm so busy with homework and all that. But I'm sure you understand. And as I said, enter that competition. Follow me at Luke Stevens TV. Tweet at me, #TalkGaming, any questions, or what game influenced you the most to enter the giveaway. With that said, also, the winners of this past week's giveaway, I am going to tweet at you in just a minute, or DM you. Some of you I've actually spoken with before. I realized I make a fool of myself when I try to pronounce your names on the show, so I'm just going to tweet you directly. Okay, so check your DMs, check your notifications on Twitter to see if you won, if you did actually do it. But with that said, guys, thank you for watching. I love each and every single one of you, more than you possibly know, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Peace out. Love you. Bye.